Today I'm going to read Chapter 6 of Friendship According to Humphrey. This is a long chapter, so there'll be two parts. This is part 1. It's called Crabby Abbey. The next morning, Kirk hurried from the cloakroom and stuck a big piece of paper on my cage. It almost blocked my view of Og, which was not a bad thing. Once the other students settled in their seats, they started giggling and pointing, led by Gail, of course. Mrs. Brisbane looked a little puzzled until she glanced over at my cage. Then there was a sign that read, "Help! I'm being held prisoner in room 26. "And who is responsible for this? As if I didn't know," she asked. Kirk rose and took a bow, as everyone applauded. I joined in, though I was the only one who knew I could never be a prisoner with my lock that doesn't lock. "Now let's all sit down," said Mrs. Brisbane, "and let's get back to poetry." Somebody made a very, very rude noise, and Mrs. Brisbane did not like that one little bit. "I heard that, Kirk, and I don't want to hear it again." During the rest of the week, we heard a lot more animal poems. Most of them were about frogs. One was about a dog, Miranda's. Saya wrote about a beautiful bird called a dove. Dove rhymes with love, you know. Nobody wrote about hamsters. Aldo didn't mention City College again, and Tabitha still didn't talk to anybody except Smiley. I was looking forward to a change of scenery by the end of the week, a relaxing getaway to one of my classmates' cozy homes, one with plenty of heat and no frogs. On Friday, Mrs. Brisbane said, "I can't remember. Who asked me about taking Humphrey home this weekend?" Miranda's hand shot up. "Oh, yes, Miranda. I got a note from your father. That will be fine." And I let out a little eek. I don't think anybody heard me. Everyone knows that I have a special place in my hamster heart for Miranda. After all, her name is Golden, and I am a golden hamster. We both have lovely golden hair. But I have a terrible fear of her dog, Clem. I barely escaped the fate the last time I went home with her. Oh, could I do it again? Then it hit me. Wait a second. "Did you say father?" I squeaked, because when I went home with Miranda before, there was only her mom, and the dog, of course, and Fanny the fish. Mrs. Brisbane chuckled. "Well, I guess Humphrey approves." I puzzled about this all afternoon. Sure enough, at the end of the day, a tall man called Mr. Golden arrived to pick up his daughter. At least I wouldn't be riding the bus with Marty Bean. That was a break. Miranda was thoughtful as ever, threw a warm blanket over my cage. As they carried me out, Mrs. Brisbane picked up Og's cage. "I thought you said Og stayed here on the weekends," said Miranda, and Mrs. Brisbane chuckled. "Well, you know, it's a surprise for my husband. He always enjoys Humphrey, so I thought he'd get a kick out of having Og for the weekend." I felt cold, 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 and we were still inside. I thought the Brisbanes were the best friends of all. Were they ready to replace me with a frog? Once we were in the car, I didn't even have time to worry about the Brisbanes. I was too worried about facing Clem again. I could practically see his sloppy tongue and drippy nose and smell that bad breath waiting for me up in Miranda's apartment. What a shock it was when the car pulled up in front of a house, not an apartment building. "Here we are, Humphrey," Miranda announced. "You've seen my mom's place, but this weekend we're staying at my dad's place." A nice lady that Miranda called Amy met us at the door. "Hi, honey," said Mr. Golden, kissing Amy on the cheek. "Meet Humphrey the hamster." "Cute," Amy replied. "I think he should stay in the girls' room." "Oh, what about the living room?" asked Miranda, "or the dining room table?" "I think you'd get in the way," Mr. Golden said. "Let's go to your room." Miranda's room in the apartment had a bed, a desk, a fish tank, and stars on the ceiling. Her room in this house had 2 beds, a dresser, a desk, and no stars. Everything in this room was pink, from the walls to the bedspreads to the carpet on the floor. A girl about Miranda's age was sprawled across one bed reading a magazine. "What's that?" she asked in a very unpleasant voice. "Humphrey. He's our class hamster," Miranda explained. "Well, he's not staying in my room," the girl stated firmly. "Now it's Miranda's room too, Abby," Amy said as she came in the door behind us. "Put Humphrey over there on the desk." Now Miranda thoughtfully opened my cage to straighten out my ladder and my water bottle, which had slid around during the ride. "Mom, I have to do homework on that desk," said Abby, sitting up. "Huh? Wait a minute. Amy was Abby's mom, and she was married to Miranda's dad? Things were quite confusing for me." "Okay, we'll put his cage on the floor," said Amy. Then I heard a baby crying in the other room. "Oh, I've got to go see what Ben wants," she said, and Mr. Golden followed her, and Abby got up to close the door. "He stays on your side of the room," Abby told Miranda, "and don't forget, no crossing the line." Abby took her foot and dragged it in a straight line across the middle of the pink carpet. "No crossing the line ever." Miranda sighed. "I know, you tell me every time I'm here." "Well, sometimes you forget, and don't touch anything of mine." "I never do," Miranda countered. "You used my barrette last time," said Abby. "It was a mistake. It looks exactly like mine." Good for Miranda for standing up for herself. "I didn't complain when you borrowed my book without asking." Abby plopped back on the bed again and thumbed through her magazine. "Just don't cross the line," she muttered. I hopped on my wheel for a spin. Sometimes it cheers people up watching me spin. But you know what? Abby wasn't one of those people. She glared at me. "Don't you tell me it makes noise," she said nastily. "Can't you stop it?" "Humphrey is not an it. He's a he," said Miranda. Oh, do I love that girl. "You could go read in the living room," she suggested. "I was here first." Abby suddenly slammed down her magazine and stood up. "Okay, anything to get away from you." After she left, Miranda leaned down close to my cage. "I was hoping she would like you, Humphrey. She sure doesn't like me. It's not my fault my dad married her mom. It's not my fault she has to share her room with me every other weekend." She sighed. "I've tried to be friends with her, but it's no use. She's a wicked stepsister, like in Cinderella." Miranda looked so sad, sad, sad. So I leaped up on my ladder and hung from it by one paw to cheer her up. She smiled, so I leaped into my tree and began swinging from a branch like Tarzan guy I saw on TV, and that made Miranda laugh. Abby returned with a sour expression on her face. I must have looked that way when somebody in room 26, I'm still trying to figure out who, slipped me a slice of lemon. "Mom wants us to fix dinner. She's got to feed the baby." And then she disappeared as quickly as she appeared. "See you, Humphrey," Miranda whispered, "and remember, don't cross the line." After she left, I squinted my eyes. But I couldn't see a line anywhere. All I could see was a big sea of pink. So much pink, I felt a little ill. We're going to stop there for the first half, and you'll have to log on again to see the rest of Chapter 6 and see what happens next.